Deep Threat Sports Network, welcome back. I'm here with Marty and Josh. We're back with another episode of Splash and Go. But hey, man, this season's kind of coming to an end. It's sort of coming to a close. We have one more race left, and that's the championship race. This NASCAR season, has been full of ups and downs. Really good racing, tons of pretenders, contenders, new faces and new places, mid-season trades. And hey, man, the biggest topic of it all is the playoff format. And this Splash and Go podcast is more than happy to cover it all for you. But hey, real quick, score another one for the Ronald McDonald House. I had Ryan Blaney last week. I am on a heater, as I would like to say. And, the only thing that Josh can hang his hat on this far is Joey Logano. He has had not the best picks as of late.
I
And
picked Tyler
Marty,
Reddick last week. I picked
that's
Tyler Reddick
okay.
last week.
That's okay. I think I heard it from you earlier that you're kind of out of it. It's just kind of like a two dog race right now between me and Marty. And I'm just going to be clear. He doesn't have much of a chance this week either. I'm feeling myself right now. I'm loving it. And let's dive into the Martinsville race. So you guys got
I'm
anything real
loving
quick?
it. I'm loving it. The Ronald McDonald House. I'm loving it.
I'm
He's
glad you
really
caught that.
glazing the
Oh, I
I'm glad you.
know.
McDonald's right now, isn't he?
Holy
Good
cow.
Lord.
I'm glad you
Oh,
caught. Well, speaking of the Ronald McDonald, and I'm loving it. Some casual conversation here. When that quarter pounder was put on E. coli watch, I actually ate one the Friday, and the E. coli watch came out Sunday for everybody in the past week. So
Yeah, baby.
there was like a 7-day stretch where I really thought I was going down, but I carried on, and I'm still here, and
Yeah,
got another
baby.
win. And I still support the Ronald McDonald House, baby. I'm loving it. But hey, Martinsville was one of the best races of the season. I was tuned in for almost every single lap. It was fantastic racing. Our group text was going bananas. You guys were constantly talking about how you thought it was one of the best races of the season too. And what a time for it to happen. Seriously, I mean, we saw things like Martin Truex not had another pit issue. And I'm going to let you guys really dive into all these things. I'm just going to kind of briefly touch the surface. Ryan Blaney had to win, took care of business, win and gets in. That was fantastic. We see Kyle Larson not make the playoffs, and he notches the most wins in NASCAR this season. So, I mean, tons to talk about here. The Hendrick Motorsports team probably expected to have more than one guy in the playoffs. Let's be realistic here. And it just shaped up really poorly for Hendrick Motorsports, in all honesty. And they really were in a situation where they might have had nobody in the finals here. So, Josh, Marty, why don't you two dive into this race a little bit? Tell us what you guys liked from it, hated from it. Tell us what your thoughts are, really.
I agree with you. It was probably the best short track race we've seen all year until it wasn't at the very end. We're going to get into that a little bit. I think we're going to have some. I think we're going to have some opinions that most NASCAR fans are feeling right now. But I really want to shine light on somebody that, I've kind of been dogging all season long is Denny Hamlin. In qualifying practice, he spun that car around, put it into the wall. I mean, he ripped the back half of that car off
Hard.
almost.
And then back
And
to, I mean, his throttle hung for a split second and hit the wall hard.
it was bad. Apparently, he picked up some rubber in the throttle. I didn't realize that the throttle cables were still exposed on those engines. So, Denny Hamlin can find any way not to qualify properly, and it was kind of a shame. But we also saw him come back and find his way up into the top 10 after starting 30. Was it 30th he started? I think it was
I
30.
don't remember exactly, but it was back there.
It was way
I,
back there.
I might have
And
been, yeah.
36th, maybe.
I thought it was
Yeah.
32nd, but I could be wrong. We're throwing
And
darts. It's somewhere in the 30s.
and a lot of his problems this season, we were kind of talking about how, is it pit crew related, is it car setup related and stuff, and the way the team was able to turn that car around and put it back on the track for Martinsville. And part of the reason they decided to fix that car and not roll with another one is because it was going to be quicker and easier to fix the car that was already set up for Martinsville, a track that he's very dominant at, than it would be to set up an entire another vehicle to run properly with no testing at Martinsville. So I kind of got to tip my hat to those guys and that whole crew putting that car back together. Yeah, I want to get into some things. Congratulations to Ryan Blaney. He drove a hell of a race. Especially after getting robbed last weekend, by Tyler Reddick at the very end, he was able to drive it, to the end and get the win at Martinsville. It's kind of looking like some fashion from last season, winning at Martinsville and then going on to Phoenix and winning it all, baby. So we got a lot to talk about. I'm gonna let Marty, voice his opinions, what he thought about Martinsville as a race.
Well, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm not sure if NASCAR fans as a whole, I know that me and Josh and Colin, we talk a lot and we like the traditional short track race feel that we had this weekend. I think you'll probably have to debate the fans on which one was better, the first Bristol or this one. The first Bristol had just insane cheese grater tire wear, but I liked what I saw in this race. So we knew that we were having problems at Martinsville really before this car. This car just really does not drive well at Martinsville, but it's we're not too many years removed from the Gen 6 car where we had the low horsepower, high downforce car where actually, and I think they actually put some sort of traction compound on the track and the track rubbered up in a spot and the drivers had to use that rubbered up spot, but they're also getting aero tight when they got close to cars in front of them, which is hard to believe at Martinsville. But we were having problems at Martinsville before this Gen 7 car. They fixed them in the Gen 6 car. We had better races there, obviously. But this is by far and away the best Gen 7 car race we've seen at Martinsville. It reminded me a little bit more of old Martinsville. And I'm telling you, if we could get Martinsville races where we consistently have that groove that kind of works its way up, buddy, we could see some really good racing here. So I absolutely love that NASCAR brought the quote unquote, as the media was saying, softest tire they ever built. It was what they used. The right sides were what they used at Martinsville, the option tire, whatever it was, the red tire. I couldn't prime option. I don't know. I think they called it the option tire. And then they went with an even softer left side tire. So I loved what I saw out of the racing. We saw late in the race, the best car on the track was Ryan Blaney. And he was able to drive up through the pack and grab this win as the fastest car on the track. That's what I like to see at these races. I think the broadcast, I think Steve Letarte brought it up at one point. I believe the 6 car, Brad Keselowski, stayed out. I think it was stage 2 on some older tires, and he was able to stay out long enough to kind of get those tires to stabilize, and he thought it was a heat factor. So to me, that's more tire fall off than tire wear. But also, we had so much rubber on the track that Denny Hamlin in qualifying got a piece of rubber. His throttle hung. So, I don't know which one we had here, but I liked it. I think we had a combination of tire fall off probably to a certain point, and then your heat cycle would take over. And then it was about protecting the heat and the pressure buildup in your tire. But it put on a great form of racing. I really enjoyed it. Now, if we could just get a car that had a bumper that could move a car in front of it, we would have spectacular racing here. Now we just have the car where the rear end's so sturdy, you hit the car in front of you, and you're just giving the driver CTE from the rear impacts of these cars. But if we can get a bumper that you can hit somebody and move them up out of the way. I know that a lot changed in the rear end when they went to independent rear suspension and they don't have a sway bar and all that stuff. So I understand that, from an engineering standpoint, things have changed. I get that. But I love the racing. I thought it was great. We had some unfortunate things that we've seen all season long, like the 19 car getting that early pit road speeding penalty. Just guts me. I want that guy to run good, especially finishing out his career. And, he had a stint where he was really good at this track that I hated to see that.
And he took the pole. He took pole position.
Yeah,
too,
and he was
really
leading
awesome.
laps. He was drifting back a little bit, but, he gets that pit road speeding penalty. Golly. I mean, how many times have we seen that this season? It's just killed that team. Mistakes either by the driver or by the team. It's been, 50-50. It's been on both this season. It's really unfortunate to see. But, we saw the 9 car have some problems, and then he got off sequence. And I talk about the ability to get off sequence and actually have it work. We got to see that a little bit. That was great to see. You got to see tires matter. You got to see tires stabilize. You saw tire wear. You didn't see any brake failures, which is kind of surprising. Sometimes you see some brake failures here. Some people's brakes go away. But we also saw drivers shoot themselves in the foot. Christopher Bell came in here with a pretty sizable point cushion. He just had needed to have a nice, good, solid day and spins out and just set him back. And at one point, he was lapped down. He's fighting to be the first car, 1 lap down. He tries to do a wave around at one point, but other cars stayed out because they were getting off sequence of pit cycles. So he had a hard time getting back on the lead lap. Eventually does, but we'll get into the shenanigans that pursued after that. But I thought that Denny Hamlin had a good race. I thought he did what he needed to do. It's pretty remarkable that they could fix that car. That's got to give you some confidence as a team and as a team owner. But Ryan Blaney going back to back of having to win his way in and doing it. And we've seen this more oftentimes than not at this point. We've seen Chase Elliott do it, I think, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whenever it was. We saw, Joey Logano kind of being the odd man out there where he won Vegas and had 2 races to prepare and then went and won the championship. But this sets up momentum in a good way for teams. It's been kind of, if you're going off past history here of having momentum at the right time, you have one Penske team that's had 2 races to study, to practice, if you will, to kind of do their homework and make sure they're ready to show up to Phoenix. And you have another Penske teammate that's should have won Homestead and won Martinsville. Boy, are they hot right now. So
tons of momentum for that 12 team, man.
Oh yeah, roll the dice at this point. I think you're having some good teams showing up at Phoenix.
If I'm Roger Penske, I'm pretty happy going into Phoenix.
Oh,
and especially with the way they started the year.
And with the two guys having success in the playoffs too. I mean, This has been a successful year for Penske. Period. Yes. I mean, they have to be tickled pink. So good for them.
We talked earlier in the year about, how Fords didn't have some speed. Like, to your point, Josh, they really came out of nowhere and looked to be the strongest team down the stretch, as crazy as that sounds. And with that being said, 2 things we want to talk about here a little bit, and I'm going to ask you guys. Obviously, we want to address the Byron Bell situation, but I want to address that after what I'm about to ask you guys. Did you ever imagine a playoffs in the Final Four where we don't have Denny Hamlin or Kyle Larson in the conversation? Like, this to me is crazy that I think 2 of the best, honestly, the 2 best drivers, in my opinion, actually, in NASCAR aren't in the Final Four. I mean, is that a playoffs issue? Like, let's talk about that a little bit. What do you guys think?
That's most certainly the way they do these playoffs this year. Look at it on paper. These guys are the best drivers in NASCAR. They're the most consistent. It's really hard to see this, the average finish through these playoffs, your top 4 drivers are Christopher Bell, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson. If we were going through the playoffs and we were basing this off the best average, those are your 4. That's
Read that again real quick, Josh. Read those 4 again, just real quick.
So if we were going off an average finish, at least in the playoffs, and not the win and you're in.
Yep.
If we were going off best average finish, right now it would be Christopher Bell, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson. And arguably 4 of your best drivers in NASCAR.
So 3 of those guys aren't even in the Final Four. I was just making sure I had the number right in my head. So literally 3 of the 4 best finishers through the playoffs are on the outside looking in the finals.
Or look at this from a different perspective. Your top 3 lap leaders this season. You have Kyle Larson that's led 1,686 laps. You have Christopher Bell that has led 1,002 laps. And you have Denny Hamlin that's led 943 laps. So once again, I mean, we could cut this however you want to cut this, but this is going to be the primary gripe that we have for people about this playoff system. Is if you look at it, you have multiple people online that break down the points as the season goes on into different perspectives. If we're going back to the Winston Cup Series, we have 4 drivers that are capable of still winning the championship. If you use our current point system, where I think you keep the stage points and all that stuff, but you just go off full year points, you have 3 people going into this final race in contention to win this championship. And they're not the same drivers that are currently in the championship. That is my gripe with it. That's always been my gripe with it, is who gets hot at Vegas, Martinsville, and then goes on to Phoenix. Who gets hot right at the end of the season?
Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney. We've seen Chase Elliott do it. We've seen Joey Logano do it. The last person who was clearly the best driver all season long and won the championship, and it just happened to be by a miracle because of a great pit stop at the end of the race at Phoenix, was Kyle Larson. Won 10 races that season and won the championship. Led a zillion laps. Was clearly the best driver all season long. But the other, and there's people that want this unpredictability in the sport, but I don't think it's overwhelmingly that's what the fans want. You hear the fans talk about it. And I know that a lot goes into this, and most of it has to do with sponsorship and how sponsorship has changed in this sport. And if I'm a sponsor that's going to dump millions into sponsoring a car, how do I get exposure? I understand that. I understand that the sponsorship has changed in this sport. But if you, and we'll talk about this more later, but if you're not going to govern with an iron fist, with clear-cut black and white rules to make sure that everything is done properly, and in the back of your mind, you can never keep these teams from doing these type of things. And we'll get into this later, but you can never sit there and dangle millions of dollars at the end of a rope and not have people try to trick the system. Try to use every resource to their availability.
They're
If that's a
scratching
shade
and
of
clawing.
gray or borderline cheating, they don't care. And we have to be careful to make sure that we don't get into like an F1 area here where we start having team orders and stuff like that. We don't want shit like that in the sport. We want people to show up to the oval and the best car, every car to run the hardest, best car at the end of the day wins with a handful of factors. And that's what people in this country, that's what oval racing fans in this country want to see. And as of right now, over the past couple of years, I haven't seen it. I've seen it in small glimpses. I've seen it in small areas. You can cut this up. You can chop this up and dig deeper into stats and say that, well, I think theoretically the best four drivers are. I'm sure you could, but I'm sorry, dude.
Kyle Larson led twice as many laps as all four of these drivers combined.
There you go.
It's cut and dry that these guys aren't. And I do like these drivers, and I don't want to take anything away from these drivers and what they've done. But if we were in a chase situation, it wouldn't even be a contest. We wouldn't even be talking about these guys. Those are facts. Those are facts.
So I mean, we'd be talking about them when they run good, when they lead laps, when they win races.
We would.
Like it always was. The broadcast always did a good job to take care of the drivers that weren't in the championship hunt, that went on, put on a clinic. You know, their sponsors front and center. You know, NASCAR always did a good job. And still does to a certain extent of taking care of sponsors. I don't like how NASCAR will rob teams of sponsors sometimes. You know, you'll see sponsorship leave cars. The next thing you know, it's the NASCAR official sponsorship for pole position or whatever. You know, whatever the case may be. I think, you know, we could definitely get into more of a court case type scenario and a charter type scenario talk by going that route. But you can, it is exciting late in the season back with the old point system when, holy cow, I think Joe Nemechek's going to win this race at Kansas or whatever. That's awesome. It creates another storyline and it makes you root for people outside of the three people you've been rooting for all season long that are in the championship. I think it would be fine, but they would probably, sponsorship is what scares them in changing this format, in my opinion. I think that sponsorship has this sport, and it's always been this way, but it has this sport in a bad spot. I mean, it's hard to have sports without good sponsorship, but you have sports, it's different than other sports. You don't show up to a racetrack with a car already built for you. You know, you're not showing up to a locker room and putting on pads that some owner bought for you in a locker room and going out and playing a game. It's completely different. You have to show up with money, with sponsorship, and you have to show up with your own stuff. So I understand that you can't have it like a ball and stick sports in every scenario, but every other form of motorsports pretty much for the most part has a full season champion. And that is what they go off of. And they somehow manage to keep sponsorship. So I'm sure they could figure out a way. There's enough smart people out there. They can figure out a way to fix this, because I'm telling you, if you're expecting the teams to take care of this and do the right thing, buddy, that's not how the world works. We're all old enough to understand that this is a business at the end of the day. And there's money at the end of the day. And there's points at the end of the day. There's everything at the end of the day. It's everything that they've worked for all season long. They are going to take every advantage they can.
So two things that come to mind for me with this. One, you know, and I don't know if we have the direct answer right now, but what does the sport of NASCAR gain by having it set up this way? And two, can we kind of say it's a bad product at this point because of the playoff setup? Like, I mean, those are the things that kind of come to my mind. Like in all seriousness, I mean, I kind of feel like with this format, you could almost classify it as a bad product because, like, you are not going next Sunday, and us three are all going to be together. We're excited as hell for this. So I don't want to say that we lost excitement for NASCAR because we haven't. But, like, you could truly say it's a bad product because when we gather next Sunday to watch this, we're not talking about the best drivers in the sport competing for the actual championship. So to me, that draws my attention to be, okay, we have a serious problem and we might be a bad product right now.
I think the drivers. What do the drivers say? I think the drivers agree with us. You know, Brad Keselowski came out this week, and
all of them, but the top four.
I mean, Mark Martin again doing this. You know,
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't work. It's not. I think you will see drivers leave the sport almost over this. I hate to say that, but you know, you're worried about these sponsorships. What if you start losing these big name drivers? What if Kyle Larson decides, out of hell with it, my contract's done with Hendrick, I can't get a regular championship. I can't earn my way into a championship like I have been, like I should be. I'm gonna go drive IndyCar.
Yeah, I don't think that we're necessarily there yet. And to Colin's point a little bit, do I think we have a bad product? I think the product on the track is fine and will speak for itself. I think that we have people that wish it was like it was with the Gen 4 car and the Gen 3 car. And there's nothing wrong with pushing and trying to, as a fan base, drive, be loud enough to where governing bodies can try to make that happen. I think the product on the track is fine. I think that the way that they have managed it has been horrible. I think that the playoff system was a fun experiment. I would like to see it go. Do I think it will go? Probably not. So I have to sit here.
But what do they gain with this? What, like, truly, like, what are they?
What do they gain?
Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about it.
Here's what they gain. Honestly, Colin, in my opinion, here's what they gain. They can sit there and talk to these teams when they have these charter agreements to say, we've expanded the playoff field to 16 cars. Now, you 16 cars that are going to be competitive, or you 20 cars that will be competitive for these 16 spots, it should really help you with stapling down some sponsorship to really get some eyes on whatever sponsorship you have. I think that is the business model behind this. Is sponsorship has changed in this sport. It used to be everybody wanted in this sport from a sponsorship standpoint, and now you're having to try to convince people to be a member of the sport just because the business model's changed. Money's tight out there. Marketing strategies have completely changed. You have more marketing probably going towards more global sports, like soccer is a big one that NASCAR used to lose a lot of sponsorship to, where you're going to have massive international exposure, not just certain spots of America exposure. So I understand that sponsorship is what they gain out of this. They are more privy. The 16 teams, if I'm a team that's not going to be able to beat Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, I'm probably going to finish 7th, and I might win one race a season. How much exposure is my sponsor going to get compared to me being in playoff championship talk all season long, and then now being in a kind of a 10 race, run what you're brung. If you're hot, you're going to go far here, playoff gunslinging little shootout here. So from a sponsorship standpoint, that is what's driving this, in my opinion. The sponsorship model's changed in this sport. They've had to adapt. Now, do I think that we need to find another way, another format that you can still get exposure for those top 10 drivers, but are not going to be championship caliber drivers? Do I think that we have the ability to come together and do that in this sport? Yes.
I think this kind of goes back to their like charter agreement too, where you have a guy like Ryan Blaney who very well could win the championship again 2 years in a row at Phoenix this coming weekend. And NASCAR saying, hey, now you can hit Menards up for $50 million and cover your charter agreement. They want to run on a champion car. You have to hit them up for this money to be on your car. And I think that's kind of why they value these charters at that price if you can compete. But if you can't compete, it doesn't make those charters as valuable.
The charters are great for teams like Hendrick and Gibbs. They work great for them because they can sit there and be like, look at how much value you have in your team. But when you cascade that price to everybody else, you're not that's not as fair or accurate of a depiction as to what they have. But I don't want to take anything away from drivers like Ryan Blaney and drivers that are winning in this championship format, because it is hard.
I agree.
To your point with the Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney wins back-to-back championships. I don't know how you could sit there and say that he was.
This was a chase. He wouldn't be in the conversation, though. 8 DNFs.
That's very true. That's very true.
I mean, that's where I was going with this. Yes, I know he has 8 DNFs, but let's be realistic about some things. He has had a stretch of extremely bad luck. Like I don't know if I've seen anybody be taken out, and I don't mean like purposely taken out, I guess, but like taken out like Ryan Blaney has. We talked earlier in our Splash and Go series that Ryan Blaney takes some of the hardest hits we've ever seen in NASCAR continuously. And then like last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago now, gets edged out right at the end. I mean, so like he honestly does have extremely bad luck.
And you would race completely different if you're in a different format. You wouldn't be taking the risks that a lot of these drivers take if it's, oh my God, I'm finally in the top 3. I've ran like, shit, for 15 races, this is my chance to get in the playoffs. You're
Yeah,
going to take extreme risks. Whereas
I
I
think
think if it's a
some of
full
this
season
is
playoff or full season standings, I don't think you would have to take those risks.
I think some of this, it kind of takes away from Ryan Blaney with rising from the ashes. We talked about it all season long, how he's had all this bad luck, and he comes back and he's in at Phoenix now, and it should be an awesome story. It should be what we're talking about, but instead we're talking about this terrible playoff system they have and their inconsistency. And Elliott Sawyer every week. I mean, how many times have I had to listen to this guy on Sunday night this season? It's every other week, explaining what happened, why it happened, this, that, and the other. I mean, it's kind of getting old. There's no consistency. They this
He's an
weekend,
ex-driver too. He's an ex-driver. Elton Sawyer
yeah,
is. So I mean, I know that a lot of drivers are like, "Oh, we have somebody who understands it," and I think that he does. I think no matter who they put in that role, you're going to get put in terrible position after terrible position, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm tired of it too, man. It. We'll get there when we get there. I don't. We'll let Colin kind of lead us as to what direction we want to get into, but we're about to open up a whole.
Yeah. So fellas, let's we could go on for hours, the three of us, about this playoff format. And come back to us in the off season, because we'll definitely do, some episodes, specials, call it what you will, over just this format and what we think could change and be better, etc. So we have tons to cover still. So let's kind of turn the page a little bit. This is going to be a hot topic too. This is probably going to take a few minutes as well. Fellas, break down the Christopher Bell, William Byron shenanigans. And to me, this is the most crazy shit I guess I could have ever drawn up. Like, I don't think we could have drew up a more controversial topic to finish a race to go to a championship series. Marty fired off a text in our group that said piss on them both. Kyle Larson goes to the finals. Like, I thought that was actually like extremely reasonable. I was like, okay, they busted William Byron and they busted Christopher Bell for some bullshit, and next man up is Kyle Larson. Like, when you sent that, Marty, I was like, push the chips in. I like that. I'm in for that. So, tons to talk about here. Josh, why don't you tell me your true opinions on this?
I mean, I agree with Marty to some extent, put Larson in, kick them both out. I think at one point I text the group and I was just like, Chastain and Dillon are blocking. I was like, there's no way. And there was 10 laps left. There was 10 laps left in the race. And the cars are stacking up behind you. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? I get it.
It was blatantly obvious, dude. It
We're
was
all
like the
driving
most
for
obvious.
Chevy. They're on the radios talking about this, and I mean, Chastain and Dillon both could have passed with 10 laps left in the race.
They could have passed Byron 8 times apiece.
And uh, my big thing is, why do you make it look so blatant? Let the race play out the race is supposed to. It's and NASCAR's created this monster. They have with this point system in the playoffs. This is what they get. This is what you get. And the Bubba Wallace, I think I'm losing a right rear. How convenient on the last turn. I think Christopher Bell, had he not put it into the wall, probably would have carried on and Byron wouldn't have taken the spot. It was pretty evident after the race how both of those guys were still sitting on pit road after Blaney's celebration and stuff, and they're just kind of sitting there because they knew what they did, and all of NASCAR knew what they did, and it really, I'd never seen it like so evident on two teams trying to do this. And somebody coined it the fail melon instead of the hail melon. I Bell didn't have to put it into the wall. Bubba Wallace gave him the spot. It was his.
So
It was
real quick,
obvious.
Josh.
He was doing both. He was brake checking Byron's line and fading back to Byron. It was a double whammy. But I'll wait my turn because I can really.
Yeah. So before we carry
on
on, real quick, let's actually shed some light truly on like the details of what happened. So we're referencing William Byron. Behind him was Ross Chastain and Austin Dillon, right? And we're referencing the fact that you can hear the Chevy drivers, spotters coming over, their crew chiefs coming over, talking about how many spots Byron can't give up, et cetera, et cetera. And so the Byron shenanigans is these guys are stacking everybody up behind him because he could not afford to lose one more spot. Otherwise, he'd be out of the Final Four. The Christopher Bell shenanigans that we're referencing is all of a sudden, like Josh just said, a tire happens to cut down on Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell driving into the wall, almost appearing to be kind of what Ross Chastain did years ago that NASCAR is now banned from the sport, where you get up into the wall and you just let her eat and you just drive along the wall to finish. Real quick before you dive any further into this, Marty, Josh, which one do you think was worse? Which one do you think was more blatantly obvious? Like, what truly do you think was worse? Because I have a take on this.
Honestly, I think what William Byron and Ross Chastain and Austin Dillon did was way more blatant. There was 10 laps left in the race. I I had enough time to text you guys and say these guys are blocking. I mean, Chastain was starting to pass and let off. It to me, it's
they were blatantly much faster at that point than William Byron was.
You look at guys who should be in the playoffs, like Kyle Larson, and you look at Kyle Larson spinning out and having to suffer the consequences of his own actions or not driving properly. And that's where he was. And there was nothing he could do about it on Sunday. He was where he was, and that was it. You have to suffer the consequences. And I'm sorry, you're not going to the playoffs. And for what the Toyotas did is just as much disgraceful. At least they waited until the last to turns 3 and 4 to do it on the last lap. I'll give them that. They were trying to, pass it off as, Bubba Wallace lost a tire. I think if Bell hadn't put it in the wall, it would have been clear cut. Bell moves on. That's my opinion. I just with that much left in the race for them to do that, for them to hold the pack up for William Byron like that was kind of a slap in the face to me. I'm
with you. Byron was worse. And that's coming from a guy that picked Byron to win it all in this show. And I'm telling you that Byron's was way worse.
And I'm a Hendrick guy. I root for the Hendrick cars. I think we've been glazing Larson all season. Marty's been glazing Elliott all season.
Marty. Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I mean, I'd do anything to see Byron in there, but under the right circumstances,
Hey, pop the knuckles, Marty. The restraints are off. I'm gonna mute it and just sit back and let you eat.
I'm gonna grab a beer for the.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. Well, if we want to go back in some time a little bit here, I don't remember exactly what year it was, so I'm sorry for not knowing exactly what year it was, but I would say it was around the Car Tomorrow era, but they didn't have the rear wing. I think they just had the spoiler. I think it was probably around like 2011, 2012, if I just had to reference and kind of guess. But it essentially shut down an entire team, Michael Waltrip Racing. They were in a scenario that this was similar, and Martin Truex Jr. was not going to be able to race his way into this race because I believe at the time, I can't remember who was leading, but I believe it was somebody like Ryan Newman. It's going to, we remember Ryan Newman would just snag those odd wins. He'd come out of nowhere and he would snag these wins. And he was racing for Stewart-Haas Racing at the time. I believe he was in the 39 car at this time. And I believe he was the one that was up front winning. And they come on, I believe, actually, man, it might have been Brett Griffin. I can't remember who was spotting for Clint Bowyer at the time. It might have, I don't remember who it was. Might have been Ty Norris or somebody. It's somebody who's still very connected to the sport. And he was like, hey, 39 is going to win this race, 56 car of Mark Truex Jr. He's not going to make it in. And they were teammates at the time. And he was like, man, that sucks. And he's like, yeah, how's your arm feel? Is it itchy? You might want to reach up there and scratch it. And he's like, yeah, 10-4. And Dale Jr. was behind Clint Bowyer, so he saw the whole thing. So Clint Bowyer goes to the next corner, wrenches on the wheel, tries spinning it out, and I think it takes him 2 corners or a couple tries, but he eventually spins this thing out and creates a caution, completely changes the outcome of that race. And at the same time, you had another Michael Waltrip Racing car, the 55 Aaron's Dream Machine, for people go back in time and remember those damn commercials that were everywhere. Aaron's Dream Machine 55 car driven by Brian Vickers all of a sudden comes over his radio. Need you to pit, need you to pit, need you to pit. Why? Why? You have a flat, need you to pit. No, I don't need you to pit now. Goes down pit road, gives up gives one spot, giving up. So they caught them on the radio in some shenanigans. And it led to massive drama. They end up kicking the 56 car out of the playoffs, and they end up adding Jeff Gordon. So that's why you always see these memes. People be like, oh, screw it. Just put Gordon in there. Just add Gordon. You see people always do that. Anytime there's drama, screw it.
Change it all ironic. A little ironic that Byron's number is 24.
Yeah, 24 car.
Carry on.
So, yeah, we've seen NASCAR have this problem in the past, and we've seen them come down hard. The thing that I do not have a problem, I have a problem with what happened. I do not have a problem with NASCAR with their ruling on the 20 car. But the problem that I have is they didn't do the same thing for the 24 car when, like you guys said, it was blatantly obvious. As soon as they panned to that picture, boom, I'm on my phone and we're texting each other. As soon as they panned to that picture, I think I watched it from one corner and I'm like, yep, I know exactly what's going on there. And about that time, you see the media kind of say, oh, yeah, I wonder if they know. They probably do. They probably know the situation. They're probably not going to be too terrible, too much in a hurry to pass William Byron here. So once again, this playoff format puts you in this position. If I'm NASCAR, I'm looking at it and saying that my format's putting me in this position because I can make whatever ruling I make, and it doesn't matter. It's still going to look bad for the sport, in my opinion. Even if NASCAR comes out and does, in my opinion, what is right, which would be like 24-20, you're both off, and we're putting the 5 in, or whatever the case. But whoever's running, whoever would have gained those points, I don't care.
Run 3 cars.
Run three cars.
Make it blatantly obvious.
Make it blatantly obvious.
We're going to handle this.
Because no matter what NASCAR does, they're still going to look bad, and people are still going to question this playoff format.
Josh, hang on real quick. That is honestly the most perfect scenario you could ever do as the sport of NASCAR because you're proving right then and there, hey, we will not tolerate this bullshit. Don't try it again next year because we'll just chop it down to 2 guys. I mean, however the case may be.
Cut them no slack.
I didn't even think about that. That's perfect.
Come on, guys. You're not thinking the corporate way. They've already printed off posters. They've already had the arts and crafts room printing off posters that say 4 drivers. They can't change it now.
Well, they already eliminated their 2 poster boys. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I agree with you. I just think it's absolutely terrible. But as soon as because obviously we saw what was going on with the 24 before. But and once again, we already knew what was happening. And as soon as I saw that 23 car pickling off to the rear, I was like, oh, now he's brake checking William Byron's line. And then I was like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, now he's giving that spot to the 20 car. I knew everybody did. All 3 of us here knew exactly what was happening. Nobody had to say a word. If we just watched the events unfold naturally, we knew exactly what was going on. And no matter what you do, that's going to look bad for your sport. And we're very close to being, do we want to be like F1? There's this cultural movement. I don't want to go too far off the rails, but there's this cultural movement in this country that everything in Europe is awesome and it's better than everything we have here in the United States, which you can make that argument about certain areas here, but we are an oval racing country. What we do in this country is we oval race. There's a reason why we don't have a massive presence in F1 because we don't race a ton of road courses unless you're a go-kart racer in this country. You're a go-kart racer or a motorcycle racer, and you can make some transitions maybe from off-road racing. But generally speaking, you're not going to have the skill set to be like this great road course racer. Now that you have seen the elite become great road course racers, but we are oval racers in this country. We do oval racing. We do things different from the rest of the world because we're just different continents. We're a landlocked country with 2 oceans around us. We do things differently over here. I do not want to be like F1. I don't want these teams taking team orders. I don't want that. I don't want us riding on majority road courses. I don't want us with sequential dog boxes in the cars. I want a North American super late model like oval racing car is what I want. And what I want is a regular points system where we just run off regular points. And what I want is for us to be our own unique thing. That's not, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to sit there and try to defend your heritage as a sport to be, well, this is the way we do things here in NASCAR, and that's okay. But there was a lot of it pisses me off because there was a lot of things I saw in this race that I liked. We had so much tire wear, you could barely read the numbers on the side of the car. Since they moved the numbers up to the front of the rear well or to the front to the fender there, you could Chase Elliott's number was damn, you had to squint to see that. Oh, that's the 9 car. I mean, I saw a lot of things in this race, but here we are talking about this shit. And I'm so sick and tired of it. But you cannot blame this on the teams because the teams, at the end of the day, it is a business and they have a job. And they have to go answer the boss man at the end of the day. And they have to go answer to their kids why they got fired from their job because they didn't do everything possible within their means to make sure that they didn't have the most success possible. Because you dangle millions of dollars at the end of the line at this thing, it just always produces this. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. It does not matter. You got that Patriots flag hanging up behind you there, Colin. You can get into details about every sport has this problem. It's how you react to it and how you prevent it from happening in the first place moving forward is how you cannot let this continue to be a regular thing because we see tomfoolery in this sport all the time. And we're not talking about trying to find a competitive edge. We see people go out there and blatantly try to break the rules. And I'm tired of it. And Christopher Bell, if he just pops the throttle, I think he's in the playoffs. If he doesn't ride the throttle out once he hit the wall, I think he's in the playoffs, in my opinion. Him just overdriving the corner, almost spinning out and slapping the wall and then driving on, in my opinion, it's not a wall ride. But the fact that he began to wall ride is probably why he's out of the playoffs. Broken rule. I'm fine with it. But you got to take the 24 car out too because that was ridiculous. And I'm sorry, just handed down fines to the 3 car in the 3 team and the 1 team. Not good enough. Not good enough, man.
It really taints, to me, how I felt after the races. For the last 10 weeks or so, we've been sitting here and we don't agree with the playoffs standings and how they work. But we still get excited about it because we're fans of the sport. And we sit here week after week having these conversations. We're rooting for Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick pulls it off last week. And we're just ecstatic, and you guys are like, there's no way Joey Logano's going to the Final Four. Logano is going to the Final Four. We were able to still find excitement. Yeah. Oh, I got 2 of them for you, 22 of them. We were still able to find excitement, even though we don't agree with the playoffs and how they work. But after seeing this week, it really takes all that away. Even though we were able to find some good in it and have fun, after what I see this week, it really takes it away from me and how much fun I have watching this, even though I don't agree with it. And what little, I won't say little because I enjoyed a lot. It just, me personally, I was embarrassed, honestly, with what I saw Sunday evening because it was quite possibly the best short track race we've seen all season. In this car, the Gen 7 car. We got to stop calling it the Gen 7 car because it's the current gen car and it's not going anywhere. It's all tainted, to me, in my opinion. And I honestly, I can't go into Phoenix and take it seriously. I kind of hope Christopher Bell, just starts wadding cars up. I hope Chase Elliott does the same. I hope, we see all 4.
Chase Elliott's not in it, baby. But you're saying him being a dark horse. It'd be like him just being like, I'm tired of this shit.
Yeah, hey, I used to
be in. None of y'all.
I used to drive backwards. I used to drive backwards on NASCAR on my Xbox, man. I mean, what happens if you see Christopher Bell just come out and just whip a bitch and just turn this thing around?
If anybody's doing it, it's Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is the king of driving backwards.
All right, well, fellas, we have hammered this to the core. We have beat a dead horse, and
it was a good race, though. It was a good race.
It was a good race.
I want to go away from here realistic and say that I'm so glad at what I saw at Martinsville. Yeah, it was a good race, and this other shit pisses me off because it's hard to defend. And now here we go to work at the end of these races, after these race weekends, and then we have to defend the sport. And I like that not everybody likes this sport. I like that people are like, oh, yeah, just driving around in circles. Cool. I don't want you sitting next to me at Gateway anyways then. I like that it's unique. I like that not everybody enjoys it. It's something special that we have here. And the product on the track was good this weekend. And here we are talking about this shit.
Well, that's exactly right. We get mad.
And it was good until it wasn't.
The head down, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm blaming NASCAR for this. You don't think that's fair? Sorry. You're the one that has put yourself in this position by ruling with an iron fist, having this charter system that people are mad about. You don't win a whole lot of fans on your side here in NASCAR. So, and we're always going to side with the drivers. That's just how fans work. You want brand loyalty as race fans, we give that to you. So, yeah, I'm throwing this on NASCAR. Fix it. I'm tired of it. Keep it from happening in the first place. If you have to change the playoff format, if you just go to a season-long points to do it, so be it. Be a legitimate sport.
Austin Dillon's been in some sort of controversial finish due to how your playoffs work 2 times. So, and he's not even in the playoffs now because of the first.
Oh, Josh, you mean he didn't win he didn't learn his lesson from that big fine that they gave him?
No.
NASCAR came down hard on him. He didn't learn his lesson, Josh?
No.
Oh, boy, I'm so surprised. Oh, I'm just so shocked.
All right, fellas, we got
to do something else.
All right.
Okay.
This is all passion, and I love it. And to your guys' point, we get so mad about this shit because we love the sport so much. We don't want the bullshit to override the good in it, and that's exactly what's happened here. But hey, let's really focus now because we are turning the page to the actual championship.
One more thing. Kyle Larson had 2 times as many wins as any other driver. 2 times, and he's not in the final 4. It's ridiculous. 2 times as many wins. I hope he goes out and wins at Phoenix.
Oh, he probably will.
As a big middle finger to the whole NASCAR. It's either him or Tyler Reddick. I want the awkward silence from NASCAR on Sunday after Tyler Reddick wins a championship. I'm sorry.
All right, so we are now on to the championship race. This is what we've worked for, on a show all season. This is what the drivers have worked for on the bigger stage to get to this point. And agree with it or not, fellas, I mean, we're not going to change anything. So these are the 4 that we got. And the 4 that we do have in the finals for the championship race, which is at Phoenix Raceway. It's 312 laps, 312 miles. Should be a dandy of a race. We have Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron racing for the championship. Nothing else matters at this point anymore. No points, no previous wins. Obviously, we just dwelled on that, so none of that matters anymore. It's a fresh slate for these 4 drivers, and the highest finish wins here. So, I mean, with all that being said, and we're talking about guys who we are pulling for internally, who we want to win. Who does this race set up for the best of the 4 championship drivers? Let's solely focus on these 4 now. Let's forget about the Kyle Larsons and the Denny Hamlins, even though it's hard to do. Let's solely focus on these 4 and tell me who this sets up the best for. Who do you guys think?
I'm gonna have to go with the 3 winners we have going in. Honestly, Joey Logano does really well at Phoenix. I think he does really well there. He's had 2 races to kind of figure the car out, get their heads right going into Phoenix. I think he does really well there. Tyler Reddick, he has all the momentum. I think he has a lot of momentum. I think 2311's, really behind him. JGR announced today, Denny Hamlin said he's got 1 car he wants to win this weekend at Phoenix, and that's the 45 car. So all the JGRs on his side, they're going to be out there helping him on the track. Hopefully it's not as blatant as the Chevys were this weekend, but I also have to look at Ryan Blaney. Hot. He was hot at Homestead. He was hot this weekend. He's the defending champ. He's been here before. He was here last season. I think he could pull it off as well. I'm not even going to give Byron any attention. With my luck, though, he'll probably go on and win the championship, and it'll really taint this playoff series this year. But not saying he doesn't deserve to be there. I just wish he had done it the right way.
Yep. I think this is a Penske championship to lose. You have one driver that has had the most time to prepare, and you have one driver that literally did the same thing last season and won this whole entire bitch. So you have one who's done his homework probably and is probably the hardest driver to pass in this sport, knows how to use dirty air, knows how to take people's lines. Boy, I tell you what, if Joey Logano gets out front here, it's the worst possible case scenario. I'm just telling you,
you better hope it's not a fuel race.
He's so
because
good.
It's over.
He's so good at maximizing where he's at the track, where he is at currently in the lineup at any given track. If he's back at 22nd, I'll figure out to save some fuel and get off sequence or have a quicker pit stop. He'll find a way up there. And once he gets up there, if he's on the right strategy, buddy, you're going to have a hard time. That's just how this is. And Ryan Blaney is spectacular here too. And I just feel like, you always hear the fan base, the Ford fan base, all these years complain about how there was some backroom deal back in the day that Bill Franciner would always take care of Chevy. And then you have what happens at Martinsville, and it certainly appears that way, doesn't it? You've seen times where it certainly appears that way, and Chevy is by far and away the most successful manufacturer in the sport for quite some time. And when you go back to the history of the sport, Chevy and GM has just been dominant overall. But boy, I'm telling you, you Ford boys, you've had your championships these past handful of years, man, and it's shaping up for another one. So I think that I'm not betting against Penske. I can't do it. I know Tyler Reddick has a lot of momentum. He had to go out there and take his shot, and it paid off for him at Homestead. He did his thing. He did exactly what he needed to do to be here. He's a great driver. He ran really bad here at Martinsville, but that doesn't bother me that much. Who knows what they're trying? Who knows what they're working on? They might just be ruling things out. But I would be shocked if the Blue Ovals don't take this championship again. So Ford fans, you got it, baby. You Logan Gex of the world, for people who watch our NFL podcast, he's one of them big old Ford Bronco, O.J. Simpson, driving down the interstate. Punks. And Josh was never a Chevy guy, but I think Josh has to be a Chevy guy now. So welcome to the team. Welcome to the
Chevy
team.
Guy.
Well, I mean, you always drove Dodges and Jeeps and stuff.
Well, yeah.
Well,
but I mean,
well, we don't.
You did have an S10 just like me. We had a race 10 back in the day.
Yeah.
2.2 liters.
I mean, when it comes to circle
Look-
track racing, I'm not stupid. You know?
Fact.
Look out for all the horses in the S10. Good Lord.
I
Hey, baby, I tell you,
I
what,
would
that
like to
Jeep
see
too.
Reddick in the winner's circle just for the awkwardness for NASCAR.
Well,
Sure.
so
You
that's-
know, just let's make it
But
real.
Logano would
awkward.
be awkward too. Logano would be awkward too because there was some, there's some tomfoolery there.
Yeah.
Well, so that's where we're going next, fellas. Josh, we're going to have you pick first and then remind everybody who your Final Four was because the time has come. And our Final Four is due now. So remind everybody who your Final Four was, who your overall champion prediction was, and who you're going to seal the deal with this week on your pick. So go ahead, Josh.
Is Larson, Reddick, Bell, Logano. You have Bell winning with a Logano backup.
Yeah. So Bell and Larson are out. One of them deserved to be out. One of them should already be crowned the champion, in my opinion. But I digress. We've kind of beaten that horse to death. I'm gonna go with Logano, man. I feel like in this whole playoffs, I've kind of been rooting for him. Marty had many a good points there talking about Logano, and if it's a fuel saving race, he's got it. He performs very well at Phoenix, and I've said it probably 4 or 5 times. I want Tyler Reddick to win it. I want to see 23XI succeed. I want to see that team grow. I like rooting for that team. I want to see Michael Jordan up there, walking around with Tyler Reddick on his shoulders like a little baby. It's something. It's something I want to see.
Boy, wouldn't that be a sight?
Um,
Sorry, Tyler, you got to do it, buddy. You got to do it for the fans.
I'd really like to see NASCAR explain their charter agreement to the general public next year. If 23XI isn't awarded their charters and your regular season and your playoff season champion are not at Daytona. So
well, you have Michael Jordan smoking a stogie with his arm on the,
he was
on
in
the
court
championship
today.
trophy.
He was in court today, dealing with all this stuff. So
MJ bagging another trophy for the case. Wouldn't that
if I'm being
Could you
realistic, I can't disagree with Marty. It's a blue oval year again. Byron will come. Byron will come out and
save the Byron backlash,
and he'll lap everybody. He'll lead the race and he'll win. And I'll probably smash my TV.
I'm really
they'll
gonna
probably
with your luck.
With your luck, they'll probably elect him president tonight.
I did write him in this morning. So Marty, with all that being said, you are next up on the docket. I'm picking last this week due to having the winner last week, and I'm gonna stroke that again one more time while I can. So Marty, who were your Final Four? Who was your champion prediction, and who you going with this week, brother?
All right, so I have to win this one to tie Colin, or else Colin wins this entire thing. We can't have that. Grant, we have to remind ourselves Colin did pick Harrison Burton to make it out of the round of 16. Harry Burr, not going to let you live that down, Colin. But whatever.
I'll pick him. I'll pick him again right now.
Oh, you crazy!
Hey,
son
Harry
of a
Burton
buck.
was he was doing good on the first stage.
Harry Burr was doing great, man. And then he gets wrecked by Hosfar, who we forgot to bring up. That dude was a wrecking ball this weekend. Look
Talk
out
about-
for Hosfar.
That boy's
Talk
gonna
about
get his
another
nose
controversy.
broken. Faux show. These guys are
Hey.
tired of his driving style.
Oh,
Denny
boy.
Hamlin should honestly shake his hand though, because that allowed Denny to get to the front in that race a little bit easier. But anyways, Marty,
Yeah.
back
So-
on track here.
Sorry. I saw something shiny. So my final four was Larson, rip, Blaney, Elliott, rip, and Bell, rip. So it was looking okay for me for a while. At one point, we had, I think, we had Elliott and Bell in there, and then we had, Blaney and I thought maybe Bell, but we had some circumstances that we already went over that changed all that. So I had Christopher Bell as my championship winner, but since Josh and I both picked C Bell, I picked Blaney as my backup, and that's who I'm glad. So that's who I'm going to ride with this weekend. I think that, man, when he's a passionate person, Ryan Blaney is. We've seen this multiple times. He does a good job of controlling his passion until something either A, pisses him off, which doesn't take much, or B, something great happens, and he wears that passion on his sleeve. He can see, everybody can see it. It's like a mask he puts on. It's intoxicating to watch. I love it. I love
his
athletes do that.
on-car audio, dude, because I feel like us three would like relate to Ryan Blaney, because that's exactly how the three of us.
How
would
is he
act.
not America's favorite driver right now?
I think he
the way he
kinda-
talks, he gets higher than a giraffe's ass too. I've seen some pictures of him where he is.
Oh God, Josh, they get piss quiz. You can't do that.
What?
He gets drunker. He gets drunker than a
Oh,
skunk.
he's smoking all the herb. He is higher than giraffe.
Blaney's suspended for the championship race.
Dude,
because
I
the
saw
Defense
some picture
Sports
of him
Network
holding up
flashes
a-
go.
up a cake, and dude, his eyes, he barely had his eyes open.
He throws back some beer. I know that for sure. Everybody's heard the stories. He's partied with Dale Jr. and Dale Jr. can throw him back. So if Dale Jr. says Blaney can throw him back, I'm sure he can throw him back. So I don't necessarily want to be like the dude. God, it's like a scene out of Step Brothers.
Me,
So,
Johnny Hopkins, and Ryan Blaney.
and Ryan Blaney. Yeah. I like Blaney though. I love his passion. I think that you can use that passion in a constructive manner. There's people, you always hear people talk about, oh, I love how cool, calm, and collected these athletes are. I hate that because they're like, oh, he's cool, calm, and collected. He'll probably be a little less likely to make boneheaded mistakes. I disagree. I think when a driver has passion, is worked up, I think that a lot of athletes perform at their best. I really do believe that. They may have a few mistakes here and there. If you can have best of both worlds, this is what you come up with. You come up with
As long as they channel it well.
athletes. As long as they channel it well, certain
And
people
he does.
can't. I think he does. I think we can point to a lot of athletes that do. They get labeled the wrong way sometimes. And I love his swagger. I love Ryan Blaney's. His socials are great. He has a smoke show of a wife. He has a lot of things going for him that everyday men can relate to. I like Ryan Blaney. I'm a Ryan Blaney fan.
All right, so Josh, you took Joey Logano. Marty takes Ryan Blaney. And strap up, fellas, because you played right into my hands. My final four drivers I predicted was William Byron, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, and Christopher Bell. And I picked Byron to be my overall champion, and I'm not going to stop now. So I know this is the absolute worst case scenario for the two of you if William Byron does do this thing, because there will be an asterisk next to it, it feels like.
I want it to happen.
But I'm going
NASCAR
William
to have to
Byron.
explain themselves.
I'm truly going William Byron. He had some controversy, obviously, this last week, but we talk about a guy that's been consistent, man. I feel like William Byron's been consistent. He had his lulls there for a little bit where you were kind of like, hey, where's William Byron at? But I think he was just
we
trying
can't throw
some
that
things.
on him. We can't throw what happened this weekend on William Byron. It's the people behind him that did it.
Yeah. William Byron wasn't
fairness.
able to phone a friend and pick up a cell phone and dial for help in the car. I mean, he was not behind this. He's just driving the car. And hey, it shook out and he got in, whether you like it or not. Anybody out there, I get it. But I'm rolling William Byron. I think William Byron's a fantastic NASCAR driver. I've said that since we started it up here. And you guys know I'm a man that does love some controversy. And in this field that we're working in, as a sports network now, a Splash and Go podcast, like controversy is honestly what helps build our show. I mean, it gives us the content. So, look, I mean, we just rambled for 45 minutes, it feels like, about some bullshit that we didn't like, but it gave us all the talking points in the world. It gave us tons to talk about, tons of things for people to hone in on and pay attention to. And I think if William Byron wins this race, I think it's a slap on the back of the neck for NASCAR, and it's another talking point as to how he got there. And I think that's just how sports almost seem to just shape up that way. The controversy follows, and winner usually has some behind him. So William Byron's my pick. I am a William Byron fan, and I do want to believe in Hendrick Motorsports. We talked about you guys a second ago how JGR is going to hopefully help Tyler Reddick and give him some love out there on the track. I think Hendrick Motorsports and the Chevys have proven that they're willing to do the same thing for William Byron, and I think you see it here in this race. So William Byron's my pick.
I like it.
Hey, as long as you said you were going to smash your TV, we'll all be together at my house watching this. Just don't smash mine. If and when William Byron does win this, Josh, I just want to look over at you and I'm just going to give you a little shit-eating grin that I know you love when I give it to you. And
there's got to be way more than a shit-eating grin. Words will be had.
Oh, hey, I can't wait. But once again, fellas, this is the NASCAR Cup Series Championship on NBC, 2 o'clock Central Time. Hey, we got 312 laps, 312 miles coming at you. This is going to be a good time. With that being said, real quick, Marty, Josh, do you guys have anything else to add? If not, I'm going to give the news about what we have in store for this coming Sunday.
Yeah, the quickest thing that I just want to add real quick is I love the tire wear. Keep it up, NASCAR. You had all these people that are just like, well, we don't think tire wear necessarily will give us the results that we want. I don't think it's everything. And it may not be everything, but I love what I saw this weekend. Keep it up. Goodyear, be aggressive. I loved it. If NASCAR, Top Brass, and Goodyear, which I have believed this throughout times this season, if they are trying their best to fix the known tire problem that they have, and they come up with a result like this and they run with this a little bit, kudos. I have great respect for you. Thank you. And I understand tire technology has come a long way, and maybe that is to the detriment of tire fall off and tire wear. But probably one of the greatest safety features we have in a vehicle in the street or a race car is quality of race tire. So I understand the reason for caution. I do. But thank you. Thank you for taking a risk, and thank you for allowing it to run its course. I enjoyed it.
I agree. A few things. Martin Truex, his final race this Sunday. It's kind of tough. Yeah, we salute you. He's going to be driving a throwback theme to his first Cup Series car. It's a Bass Pro Tracker. It's going to be maroon. Keep an eye on it. Root for our boy. Stewart-Haus Racing shutting their doors. Saw a couple tweets today. People were clearing out their offices. It's really tough.
Man.
Tony Stewart kind of came out today and was like, "Oh, this playoff thing is why I don't want any part of NASCAR." Just go straight, Tony, right now. It kind of upset me hearing his opinion. When you weren't there all season for your team, you haven't been to a circle track all year, and now you want to pipe in when NASCAR's making mistakes.
It's Tony being Tony.
Yeah, that's the smoke. I get it. It was like I was reading some tweets, saw some pictures. They're shutting down. A couple guys were like tweeting out like they should bring illegal ass cars to the race this weekend and just throw dominate all weekend. Just dominate. Which I'm all for it. Bring some illegal cars.
Do it, please.
Do it. Go out and win. Go out in style, baby. Another thing. I don't know if you guys watch this guy, but it's kind of cool. He's on YouTube. His name's Cletus McFarland. He's probably one of the biggest automotive content creators out there. But he does some circle track racing at a track he owns. And there's some legends that are doing his circle track racing. Greg Biffle's going to be there. It's the weekend after the championship. Noah Gragson is actually going to be there. So these guys are running circle track and some Crown Vics. If you get some time, maybe check it out. It's pretty cool content, and I enjoy watching it, and it's kind of cool being able to see him bring some of these legends and current drivers together postseason and see some of these guys, mix it up and, do something a little different than NASCAR. And it does really put an eye on circle track racing. In my opinion, it really helps bring more people to the sport. So if you get some time, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, maybe check some of his content out. I think what he's doing for this automotive sports period is pretty phenomenal. So that's all I got.
Hey, well, with that being said, fellas, I want everybody out there to know that Deep Threat Sports Network Splash and Go is going nowhere in the off season. We will be here breaking down, old races, talking about what we want to see, talking about this playoff system some more. I mean, leave comments, shoot us some DMs. Let us know what you want us to talk about. I mean, we'll talk about anything, especially during the offseason, and really break it down. We're going absolutely nowhere. With that being said as well, though, you can follow us on X at DT_sports_, Facebook, Deep Threat Sports Network, Instagram, Deep Threat Sports with a Z, TikTok, Deep Threat Sports Network, YouTube, Deep Threat Sports, Spotify, Deep Threat Sports. Also, while you're there visiting our Facebook page, make sure you check out what you have to do to win one of these tumblers. Our tumblers are in. Josh and Marty will be receiving theirs this weekend. We have all the details on Facebook for how you to be a part of the drawing for that. We have already gave one away. Shout out to our boy Leon, making sure that he's always sharing our content, liking, commenting, doing everything he can to help us out. We really appreciate that. And if anybody else out there is putting forth the groundwork like he is, we will also take care of you as well. We have merch coming. We have shirts being made, hoodies being made, hats. We're going to try to dive into all of it, and we will make sure and spread the wealth and take care of our biggest fans out there. Also, some exciting news. One thing that we talked about early on when we became a sports network is during championship events, we wanted to gather together and try to do a live show. So coming to you right now, the first we're going to talk about it. We are doing a live broadcast on Sunday to cover the NASCAR championship race. Josh, Marty, and myself will be together. This is going to be a fantastic time. This is what it's all about, fellas. This is why we do the stuff like this. We love talking sports, and the fact that we get together, have some cold ones, do some grilling. Hopefully we have some good weather and a good NASCAR race to go with it. I cannot wait. This has also been tons of fun. I feel like we've brought fantastic content. Josh and Marty really know their shit with NASCAR, even though they're getting punked by a guy like me who doesn't know as much on the picks. I'm going to throw that out there one more time. And
Harrison Burton.
Hey,
Harrison Burton.
Somebody,
we're gonna dress you up like
baby.
After Byron spins on the first lap. We're gonna dress you up like Ronald McDonald for the damn live broadcast.
I might have a Harrison Burton outfit. You just never know. But fellas, this has been tons of fun. And once again, make sure you tune in to the NASCAR Championship race Sunday, November 10th at 2:00 on NBC. Going to be a banger. We cannot wait. If you guys have anything you want us to do during our live broadcast, leave a comment. Let us know. We'll make sure we'll address it. We'll have plenty of conversation for you. Also, for those of you out there that don't know, obviously we will not have the race on camera. We cannot do that. So don't come to us thinking you're going to watch the race through us too. We're just going to be talking over the race the whole time. We will be much more entertaining than what they have on TV. We will also not have commercials for your ass. So, as long as Josh isn't talking about his Peyronie's commercial again, we will all be good. And cannot wait to do this, gentlemen. If you guys have anything else to add, now's the time. Otherwise, until next time, fellas. Well, I am a plethora of knowledge since I know those details. But I did think that you did a full season breakdown, it felt like, over that commercial.
Checking Colin's medicine cabinet on Sunday.
Hey, go through it all you want, baby. You'll find some things that you might need.
And if you guys want us to do things, like leave it in the comments. Obviously, make it realistic. Like we can't sway any third world country elections or anything like that. Like
no, I probably
PG and make sure that we can. It's feasible. But
I probably can't shave my head. That probably wouldn't go well at my home life. But
I'm gonna try and stay sober.
I shaved my head. I mean, come on. You guys think I'm bald? This is a hairdo. I choose this stuff. Baby, come on.
Hey, it does look good. That skull calf you got on is fantastic.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
All right, fellas. Until next time, though, can't wait to do this with you guys on Sunday going live. That's exciting as hell. That's what we're all about. Until next time, peace.
See ya.
See ya.